Hi guys, how's it going? I am the Crown Clown, and today we are doing What If Deku Was Smoker. This is a new series I'm starting up, and if you guys are going to enjoy this series, if you guys want to stay up to date with me and all my videos that I upload, I would appreciate it if you guys subscribe to the channel, click that notification bell to get notified every time I do upload a video, and, join the Discord down below to interact with me and join the community there. We have a lot of fun, so let's jump right on into it. But before that, a quick disclaimer. And this series will contain smoking. I do not promote smoking. I do not condone the act of smoking. And yeah, so. And also just to know, there is no devil fruit involved with this whatsoever. So, yeah. I'm going to explain his quirk in detail when we get there. So, here we go. The story starts out, Deku's little kid, We're going to start this off elementary school right before he gets his quirk examined. So, he's just there, and him and Bakugo are, they're playing around, and Deku's and Bakugo, they're, talking to each other like, oh man, can't wait to get our quirks. And Bakugo still says, whatever quirk I get's going to be way cooler than whatever quirk you can get, Deku. And Deku tells him, no, I'm pretty sure I could actually get a better quirk than you. And, Bakugo's just like, yeah, well, at least I get to see my dad every day. And Deku's like, that's a low blow, Bakugo. And the reason why Deku doesn't get to see his dad every day, because in this, Deku's dad is a Marine officer in the Navy. So that's what's going on with that. So Deku's dad's a military man, and Inko, she's taking care of him. And, she's not telling Deku this, but they are going through a divorce at the current moment. So that's what's happening. And Deku's dad actually abandons them for the military life, and he completely disowns Deku completely. Like, he's wanting nothing to do with his son, none of that. He's all about pure justice at the end of the day. He cares for nothing else in his life except for the thrill of the fight and exacting justice against, would-be international criminals. Like, that's his whole deal. And he's actually a very high rank up there. So, with that out of the way, let's get right on into this. So, it's time for Deku to get his quirk evaluated. His mom's kind of stressed out with the divorce, but she's actually really happy to finally be at this point with Deku trying to get his quirk. And she's hoping that Deku has a quirk that's similar to her and not his father. So, because in this I'm changing Deku's dad's quirk from brief fire spewing out of his mouth to he can just control smoke. That's his dad's quirk. So Deku gets evaluated, and they're looking at him, and he's like, he has a smoke-based quirk. And Inko's just like, he's just like his father then. Let me guess, he can just control smoke. And the doctors are looking at him, and they say, oh no, he can do far more than that. And she's like, what do you mean? And they tell him that, and Inko, that Deku, he can rearrange his molecular structure of his atoms at a subatomic level to be the exact properties of smoke in his body. He can then generate those atomic particles in the air to create smoke out of thin air, and if there's any smoke nearby, he can then connect those atoms to his own and instantly control it. It's a very unique quirk that goes down to the subatomic layer of his process. It is so ingrained into his body that, I'm not sure that even if people could separate quirks, I'm not sure anyone could ever separate this quirk from him, because it's just so ingrained into his DNA. It's at his molecular level. If he ever did, it'd be extremely painful for him. And, Inko's just like, okay, so he has a very, very powerful quirk then, and he's just like, yes, but it could also be very dangerous for him right now to use it without proper guidance and training. We would like to set up a training course with our doctors here and scientists to make sure that he can fully, control his quirk, his abilities, and train his body and mind to be able to handle and for him to be able to consciously be aware of the atoms he's rearranging and to make sure he's not, making a mistake. And we would actually prefer to have a pro hero here in case of any incident to help control him, but we need your permission to do this. And Inko's just like, what are the risks if we don't do this? And he's like, well, if he doesn't know what he's doing or how he's doing it, he could potentially disperse his atoms and not be able to, line them back up properly. And when he undoes his quirk, it would kill him. And Inko signs the paper saying, whatever it takes to help him get full control over his quirk, let's just do that. And the doctor is like, I'm happy you saw it our way. And this is a different doctor, different hospital. This is one, accustomed to the military right now. And even though Inko's getting a divorce at the moment, it's not really going to be too bad for her financially because, Deku's his kid. So it's covering Deku since Inko's not the one getting the treatment Deku is. It's like, even though he did disown his son and all that, like the military telling him, like, no, you're still going to have to support this kid. And, he's already signed on, so it's on your dime. And his dad's actually not too happy with that, but he's not going to have to worry about it for too much longer anyway. So Deku's dad gets called out on a mission, and he actually ends up dying before the divorce is settled. So Inko's and Deku actually end up getting his full benefits and everything else. So Inko's not going to have to worry about anything. But Inko just drops Deku off there, pretty much throughout elementary school. Deku is going to school, studying there, and then coming to the hospital after school every day, training with his quirk, with the doctors, the scientists. They're being real analytical about him, and, not a whole lot of friendly faces. And the pro hero they called in there is Aizawa, but Aizawa just sees this as more of a chore than anything else, so he's not really being too kind or anything like that, because this is pretty much a rougher out or exterior Aizawa. So that's pretty much it. Goes on until like the last year of middle school, as Inko drops Deku off and she leaves, there's something a bit different. Inko, she works out herself, trying to keep herself in shape, and she has been dating, off and on. So she's going for a jog, and she decides to cut through an alleyway to, try to give her a longer path around, because there is road construction going on there anyway, so she doesn't want to just call it a day on a short jog. So she takes it the alleyway, and there's actually a murder happening, and she witnesses it, and she is actually killed to be silenced right there. And she never makes it back to Deku at all. So Deku, however, the police are called, they identify her, and they're running through her records, notes that she has a son, and the police are there to go, they realize he's still at the hospital, so they go to the hospital, and, Aizawa's actually pretty pissed off right now, just like, why am I having to stay here extra time with this brat right now who's just whining for his mom? Like, he's pretty pissed about having to stay there. And the doctors are saying, well, we're just over something. Aizawa just tells them, look, I've had it. I'm going. You watch over the brat. And the doctors are just like kind of like, jeez. So Aizawa leaves and he sees the police coming in there. He's saying, "What's up?" And like, we're looking for Izuku Midoriya. We were told that we could find him here. And Aizawa's like, "What, the kid do something wrong?" He's like, no, his mother was killed today." And Aizawa immediately feels bad for what he just said to Deku. And he's just like, "Oh shit." And Aizawa tells him, "Oh, he's in there with the doctors." So, they go in there and it's that cat guy. He's in there and he, escorts Deku to the station to try and figure out if he has any family of any kind. And that's when Naomasa, All Might's friend, he comes in there and he's like, "What's going on? I just got the call. Sorry, I was taking care of other business." And they're just like, not sure really how to tell you this, but yeah, we have a kid here. He doesn't have any other family. His dad died a few years ago, active duty in the military, and his mom was just killed in a back alley murder. And he's got nowhere to go, so we're trying to find an orphanage that'll take him, but we're not getting any luck. Most of them say they're already at max capacity. If nothing else, we'll just have to stick him with a homeless shelter." And now Masa's just like, "No, that's..." He looks at Deku. He sees Deku's long white hair. And he's just like, "That poor kid, I give me the rundown on him." And they tell him, well, he has a extremely powerful quirk allowing him to change his molecular structure to mimic that of smoke. He can literally become smoke, control smoke, and form smoke out of thin air. And he's been going to that hospital there to, you know, kind of just get his powers under control, make sure it doesn't cause him any harm or death, because it's that powerful and that rare of a quirk to formulate that powerful as well. It's like the kid's literally smoke itself. And, you know, Naomasa, he's looking at Deku's eyes and he's just crying. He's like, "I'll adopt the kid." And all the officers are in there just like, what, you're going to adopt that kid?" And he's like, "Yeah, if he's got nowhere else to go, none of you guys are stepping up. And it's obvious that the doctors won't even try to help him. I'll adopt him. He'll be my son." So now Masa goes over there to Deku. He puts his coat on him and he's like, "Don't worry, son, everything's gonna be alright. I'm gonna take care of you. My name is Naomasa." And Deku's just like, "Izuku Midoriya." And he's just like, "Don't worry, you're in good hands." So Naomasa's just, he's super kind-hearted, and he's actually taking Deku, but he raises Deku very strictly on laws and rules that need to be followed. If the schools have rules, you follow those rules. You follow the laws above all else, and listen to people who are higher ranked than you. Deku, he agrees with him on most of it, except for the part where he says, "Agree with people who are, higher up than you." He kind of just says no to that. He agrees to follow the rules and laws, but he's not going to just be blindly following everybody else, even if they are higher up. Deku has his own sense of justice after hearing how his mother was killed. And, because Naomasa, he didn't tell him, but he does have the files at his place because he's looking into that case, because that's his stepson's freaking, well, not stepson, adopted son's mother's case. Like, he's gonna be the one to find the guy who did it and to end them. And, Deku, he still has the green eyes from Inko. It's just his hair color's changed. And Deku's actually working out a lot, like, along with going to the hospital every day to control his quirk. Like, he's just now starting middle school. So by middle school's, and he's going to have full mastery over his quirk anyway. And Deku, he's actually gotten the part down about changing his body to smoke every time he's going to get hit. So physical attacks will not work on Deku anymore. And Bakugo, he still tries to bully Deku. Like, Bakugo gives no fucks. Like, he thinks of Deku as, someone who could match him. So he's got to make sure he can, kind of push Deku's head down. But Deku, he's very, blunt. He doesn't give a fuck. And he holds his justice ideals very strongly. So he's not going to let Bakugo just walk all over him. Not in the slightest. So, every time that Bakugo tries to bully Deku, Deku gets right in his face. And it's to the point to where the school is, they're called both of their parents. And, Namasa, he keeps scolding Deku at the school, but every time he gets home, he's telling Deku, you're doing the right thing, standing up for yourself. I have to scold you at school so the teachers don't, call the department and, file complaints against me, because the teachers there are very scummy and they do abuse that system a whole lot. So, yeah, that happens. However, there's this new kid that transfers in halfway through the first year of, middle school, and his name is Inasa. And Inasa sees Deku, and Bakugo just doesn't, he does kind of like what Todoroki does to him in the, fucking recommendation exam. So, yeah, he doesn't like Bakugo whatsoever. He actually refers to Bakugo as like, you're more like Endeavor than All Might. And Deku actually laughs and he says, that is so true. He has his exact personality. And, Inasa goes over to Deku and, he offers to shake Deku's hand. And Deku actually shakes his hand because Deku's not an asshole. He's a bit, rough, gritty, and tough on the exterior, but he's not an asshole, and he's not overly depressed either. Like, sure, he wants to find his mother's killer, but overall, he wants to be a hero to save people and to follow his own sense of justice. He's not there to do it for the fame. He just thinks that the police are too restricted and limited, and heroes do have the authority to use their quirks freely, and they do have the ability to go places and, investigate in things if they hear a disturbance before the police can. Like, there's a lot less red tape with heroes than there is police. So that's where Deku's kind of leaning more forward to being a hero. However, he's not going to be one that wants to be in the spotlight. If it happens, it happens, but he's not going to be one of them that takes credit for, someone else's hard work. He's not going to be one of those who's just trying to climb the ranks. Deku's just like, as long as I can save people and help them and do what's right and eliminate evil, he's pretty much happy. He's following kind of like the older traditions of being a hero, to where you weren't out there seeking praise or attention or all that, or even gratitude. You're just doing the right thing because it's right and saving the people that need help. That's pretty much where Deku's at with things right now. He's not wanting to be the next symbol of peace. He's not wanting to be the next All Might. He actually does not look up to All Might whatsoever. He looks up to Naomasa, because Naomasa, even though that's his, adopted dad, that's his role model, because Naomasa, he took the time to kneel down in front of the kid. He put his coat on him and he made sure that he knew everything was going to be all right. It was a tough situation, but he showed tenderness and care to helping people and making sure that they're all right. So that's why this Deku is a lot more, appreciative and, thinking of Naomasa as, the greatest man ever to come into his life. Since his dad was an absolute shitbag who thought only of absolute justice, he didn't care about any other activity, none of that whatsoever. He just, if he saw that there was a villain, he wanted that villain dead. He wanted them executed on the spot, and that's why he was a military man instead of a hero. So Deku is, his father tried to instill that into him, but, Deku was a little kid. You can't instill that into a little kid. So his father saw him as a weak offspring, something to not even care about whatsoever, and just threw Deku to the wayside. And yeah, so Inko really cared for Deku, and now that she's gone, Deku only has one person that cares about him, and he never really had a friend before either, because he knew people in elementary school and he knows people in middle school, but he doesn't have a friend. And Inasa's actually being really friendly to Deku. He's actually, telling Deku his goals, his dreams, and, he's actually trying to encourage Deku to follow his. So him and Inasa, they're hitting it off right off the bat. Like, him and Inasa are becoming really good friends. So, Deku's actually having a pretty good life overall. And, Deku pretty much chills with Inasa all throughout middle school. And, Deku, he does develop a habit of smoking. He smokes, like a cigar a day. But, people notice that it's only when he's using his quirk that he decides to really pipe in a cigar. And Deku, you can tell when he gets serious because he just won't be smoking the one. Now he'll throw that one that he's been smoking away, pop two in his mouth, and that's how you can tell he's actually fucking serious. That's how he's been at the hospital. Now Masa knows nothing about Deku's smoking habits because he's always on the job while Deku's at the training, so he doesn't know about Deku's smoking at all. And Deku actually takes up smoking outside of those classes. So for the few couple next years of middle school, Deku and Inasa are chilling, and every day at lunch, like Deku's smoking literally just like a pack of cigars every day. And, now Masa's actually asking like, Deku, where's all your allowance money going to? And Deku's like, I'm getting, my gym membership paid, and I'm just going out to eat sometimes. And he's just like, you really need to learn how to cook, son. Deku knows how to cook. He cooks every night. He's just not telling him he's buying cigars. And Deku, in this, he's really built. Like, he's and tall. Because Smoker in One Piece, he's like 6'10". So Deku's not a full adult yet. So I'm gonna just put Deku like 6'3" for right now. Because pretty much at your last year of middle school, you're pretty much almost maxed out on your height. Well, that was for me anyway, because I'm 6 foot. Middle school last year, I was like 5'10". So all throughout high school, I literally just like grew 2 inches, and that was it. So that's how I'm kind of, based it off Deku, but giving him a lot more to grow. But anyway, Deku's pretty much the tallest guy there. He's just looking down upon everybody, but he's not doing it to be condescending. It's just literally a biological fact for him. He's tall as fuck. And Inasa, him and Deku actually work out at the gym every day, and they actually train together with their quirks now, because Deku's got full control over it now. He's not needed at the hospitals anymore. So him and Inasa have been training together for a while, trying to figure out what combo attacks to do. And of course, they've been training at Dagobah Beach because nobody's there and there's plenty of targets. And Deku actually uses that to test his mobility. He's using it for mobility training. Just, slewing through all the debris and trying to make sure he can pass by and hit things at the same time without taking any damage. So that's what he ends up doing. So, it's the last day of middle school. Teacher comes in, throws the papers up, same old drill. And Deku and Inasa and Bakugo are all in the same class. They've been in the same class all the way up. So, the teacher comes in, throws the papers up, and he's like, all right, let's see. I know you guys all want to be heroes. And he's like, and Bakugo starts going off about how he's going to be going to UA and nobody's going to be able to get into UA with him. He's like, oh, right. There's like one other kid that wanted to go to UA in here. And, Baku's like, who dares, try to challenge me and say that you could go to UA? I'm the only one capable here out of everyone in here that can go to UA. And the teacher's like, oh yes, Inasa, you wanted to go to UA, didn't you? And Inasa's actually kind of surprised and looks at Deku, and he's like, Deku, you know, you didn't want to go to UA? And Deku's like, nah, UA is too much in the spotlight, man. They raise, heroes that only want fame, fortune, that type of stuff. That's not what I want to go for, man. That's not the hero I want to be. And, you know, he's just like, okay, what type of hero do you actually want to be? And Deku tells him, look, I just want to be a hero that follows the rules, the law, saves people, even if they're not grateful, even if they don't really want you to interfere. I just want to save those people, punish evil. That's pretty much it. Old school traditional hero. And Inas is actually pretty inspired by that. And he's like, will you think less of me if I go to UA? And he's like, man, we're best friends. There's no way I could think less of you for just a difference in school. I'm just very old school tradition. Only reason I'm wanting to go to Shiketsu is because, like, my dad, he's a cop. He's following the rules, all that. And Baku's like, the son of a fucking pig wants to just be a pig that's off its collar. And Deku looks at Baku and he's just like, oh, you're gonna want to shut your fucking mouth and don't you ever fucking disrespect my old man. And Inasa's just like, all right, calm down, both of you. And the teacher, he looks at Bakugo and he's just like, Bakugo, you're going to need to take back what you said and apologize to him. And Bakugo refuses. He says, I'm not taking it back. I meant what I said and it's the truth. I am not taking it back. So Deku says, that's all right. Because I'm pretty sure you're never going to amount to anything anyway. So you wouldn't even be worth my time or worth giving my dad any type of trouble or, headaches dealing with you. He's taught me to follow the rules and obey the law. I'm not about to break that. Meanwhile, you've been breaking it the whole time, using your quirk with no care in the world. We're not even supposed to use our quirks without a license or without strict permission from schools, and yet the school doesn't give you permission to use your explosion quirk, but you just keep going off with it. And everybody just praises you because, oh, it's an explosion quirk. It's flashy. You'll make great attention. You'll be a amazing hero. Like, get real, man. That's not how this stuff happens. Just because you're wanting to be a hero doesn't mean that you're going to be, the best hero. Just because you're flashy doesn't mean you're the most powerful. You need to get your head out your ass and start thinking of ways to actually improve yourself. Because, trust me, compared to Inasa, you've been stagnant. Inasa would absolutely destroy you in a fight. And I beat Inasa all the time. Which means I would absolutely destroy you. And, he's well aware of his weaker matchups. And he knows Bakugo's not one of them. Because Bakugo doesn't control flames. He's just explosions. And explosions have less fire in them and it needs a detonation device. So Deku can literally just hit Bakugo's sweat glands at that exact moment, dry them up, and he can't use his explosions because Bakugo has to turn his sweat into nitroglycerin and ignite it. He can't do that if he doesn't have any sweat. And he sure as hell can't do it if he can't breathe. And his smoke can suffocate people. It's very dangerous and risky to use. So Deku's full aware of, don't just use it on anybody and you don't use it to settle personal gains. It should only be used on criminals. And Inasa, he's telling, Deku, chill out, chill out. So, Deku does, and Bakugo just keeps on with his bullshit. And, Inasa tells him, look, ditto for what he says is what I'm saying, but You are so fucking egotistical. You literally cannot even think of there's anything else outside of your own point of view. You think you're the greatest and everybody else isn't. You literally are just so naive to this that you're a complete and total asshat, dude. Like, seriously, what the fuck is wrong with you? So, Deku, he's just like, alright, Nasa, just let it go. He's gonna keep talking and let him talk. So, he just stops and, Inasa's just like, man, that dude is a complete and total asshole. And Deku's like, yeah. And, the sludge villain, it does happen to Deku, but, Inasa's there with him. So it's really just like the sludge villain gets his ass whooped. Like, Inasa uses the wind on him, and Deku, he just smokes his ass right up out of there. He just pops in the cigars, starts smoking them up. And with that smoke and his own, he starts off with the smoke out of his cigars only. And he just blows that shit right on out and into the sludge villain's eyes. And it's just irritating the fuck. And then Deku just conjures up the smoke more and more into a smoke tornado. And Inasa uses the wind and he adds it into the smoke, causing it to, spin faster and suffocate the sludge villain more. And the sludge villain ends up, being knocked out by suffocation. And of course, he gets mixed into the tornado as well and just gets torn to pieces. But he's sludge, he can be put back together. So they call that combo move, absolute smoke out because, it's a smoke tornado, basically. If you get caught in it, you're absolutely getting smoked out. So, therefore, All Might, he comes in there and Inasa in this is actually a huge All Might fan ever since Endeavor kind of just shit on him as a little kid. And Deku knows about his beef with Endeavor. And, pretty much All Might praises them for their work. Deku's just like, oh, we don't need to be praised. It's not that big of a deal. We were just defending ourselves. And, Inasa's like, yeah, he's right. And he's fanboying. But Inasa asked All Might for his autograph. He hands him his notebook. And All Might, he signs Inasa's autograph right there off the bat. And, Deku's like, I'll let you talk to your idol. I'm going to go home and see my dad. And All Might, he knows about Deku. He's like, hold on a minute. You're Naomasa's kid, aren't you? And Deku's like, oh, you know my dad? He's like, oh, your dad's a great friend of mine. And, All Might's just there. And Deku's thinking, and he says, hey, Inasa and All Might, how would you guys like to come over for dinner? I'm pretty sure Dad'd be happy to see you, All Might. And Inasa, you can chat with your idol. And All Might's thinking about it. He's just like, But he sees something in Naomasa. And, well, Naomasa's decisions to raise Deku. And, he's wanting to see just how, much of a hero Deku is. And he's honestly, pretty much impressed with both Deku and Inasa. So, All Might, he agrees. Now, Masa definitely agrees. He just calls his parents and says, hey, I'm having, dinner at Izuku's place. Please don't wait up for me and I'll be fine. Don't worry. So, Inasa, he gets the alright from his parents. So he goes over there and Namasa Tsukachi and Tsukachi, he's just like, yeah, because I'm just going to start calling Namasa Tsukachi now because that is his last name. And Inasa and Namasa, they get very similar. So Tsukachi, he walks in on Deku preparing dinner with, Inasa, and he sees All Might there. He's like, All Might, how's it going? And All Might's in small might form, but he let Inasa and Deku in on this secret. And, All Might's just like, Tsukachi, it's great to see you. And, He's just like, yeah, it's been forever. I didn't know you were back. And All Might's like, yeah, I think I might have found my successor right here in this house. And, you know, Deku perks up to that, and so does Inasa. And he's like, oh, what do you mean? And All Might says, it could be either one of you two. And Deku's just like, what do you mean, successor? If you're talking about becoming the next number one hero, symbol of peace, all in the spotlight, you can count me out. That's way too much attention for me. I don't want it. And, you know, All Might says, well, I'll be teaching at UA. And Inasa's like, really? I was planning on going to UA. And Deku's just like, I have no intention of going to UA. So, yeah, that's kind of, making All Might lean more towards Inasa because he can literally see his successor and kind of, go with it. And, he's like, okay, he's like, young Inasa, if I could, pass my powers down to you, would you be okay with that? And Inasa's just like, what do you mean? And All Might, he tells them both, and Tsukachi, he already knew this, and he's like, I was not born with this quirk. I was actually quirkless. This quirk is able to be passed on, and I was chosen to be the past predecessor's, successor to it. My master was a brilliant hero. She fought tooth and nail and entrusted me with this power. And Inasa's just like, so you're wanting me to become your successor? And, All Might's like, you showed great bravery today. And you are incredibly, just always smiling. You're wanting to save people. And you're not afraid to work with anybody who shows up. And Inasa, he's like, well, that's kind of where you're wrong. I'm kind of hesitant to work with just anybody. The only reason I work so well with Deku is because we've been training for like 3 years together now. And, because they worked out together. Quirk-wise, only a year, but still. So All Might's just like, all right then. How about this? You keep it a secret and I'll watch you grow. And if I deem you worthy, I will make you my successor. And Inasa's like, deal. So let me know down in the comments below and on Discord. I will be asking this question on Discord. Should Inasa get All Might's quirk or no? So let's continue on. So, Deku and Inasa, All Might, Tsukachi, they all eat dinner, and they're all having a great time. And, it's getting late. Inasa heads on home. All Might heads back. Deku's out on the back porch smoking, and he hears Tsukachi coming, so he just literally just snuffs out the cigars and just uses his quirk to just slingshot them with his smoke arm that he stretches out there with smoke. And he just slings it up on the roof and then deactivates his quirk real quick, turning his arm back to normal. And he's out there and, he's just sitting. And Tsukachi's like, look, are you sure you don't want to go to UA? And, he tells, Tsukachi, Deku does, yeah, I'm sure. I know your friend's going to be teaching there, but still, I don't want to be seen by him and be, favoritized or given any special permissions or, I really just want to focus on being a hero that you can be proud of and sticking true to my ideals, having, complete dignity in myself and to value my obligation as a hero. UA, it mainly raises people from there who become egotistical and just overconfident in their quirks, and they teach their students to take pride in their quirks and their abilities, but they don't teach them to be humble at the same time. They don't have anything to really represent. There's no responsibility or accountability there almost. And, you know, because at this point, UA's never had a villain attack ever. So and most of the heroes like Endeavor came from UA, All Might came from UA, and Deku sees them as more egotistical. Not so much All Might anymore, having actually met him, but he definitely sees Endeavor as someone who's the worst hero UA's ever put out, and somehow is ranked number 2. And Deku's just like, besides, I hear that Shiketsu's getting a new teacher this year, and he's also going to be the one administering the entrance exams this year. And, Tsukachi's like, oh, who's that? And Deku tells him, Yarui Musha. And, he's just staring at it. He's like, him? He's stuck in the old ways, though. He's very old-fashioned, and he's strong. He has strong ideals about how a hero should be. Dignity, having pride in yourself, and doing the right thing, not for fame or glory or anything like that, but just because it's right. That's the guy I want to teach me. He's the hero I look up to the most, but he's not the number one role model in my life. And Tsukachi's like, who's the number one role model in your life then, if it's not him? And Deku says, it's you, Dad. You're my biggest inspiration in life. You took me in out of the kindness of your heart. I was a little kid. You wrapped your coat around me, and you looked in my eyes, and you told me everything was going to be okay. And, Tsukachi's actually, getting teary-eyed a little bit because he sees how Deku's grown up from his parenting, and he's very happy that Deku actually grew up to be such a respectable young man. And he's very proud of him. And he's like, all right, son. Okay, thank you for those kind words. It means a lot to me, honestly. And Deku hugs him and he's like, no problem, Dad. So, school's over with. Inasa, he knocks on Deku's door bright and early and he's like, yo, Izuku, you ready to go train? And, Deku's just like, you know it, I was born ready. And, because they have a habit of training at like 4 a.m. all the way to like noon. So their first stop is, they don't even take the subway. They jog and run all the way to the gym, because the gym's just like not even that far. It's like a mile down the road from there. So they run a mile every day to the gym. They work out, and they're both incredibly jacked. Like, they are built to hell. Like, if you know how Smoker's muscle type was, pre-time skip back in Lodgetown of One Piece, that's Deku right now. Like, that's Deku's exact muscle build. And I'll have a picture of that on the screen for those of you who don't watch One Piece or don't remember what Smoker looked like pre-time skip. So, yeah, that's how Deku looks. Not the hair, because the hair is like, he has an undercut and he's got his hair slicked back. He keeps himself looking professional. Inasa, he looks the same from canon, same muscle build from there. So no differences to Inasa. And, after that they do sparring practice at Dagobah Beach. They're getting done with their sparring practice, but they're actually, cleaning up the beach also, because, they decide, it'd be better if they had a wider area to spar with. And even though the rubble makes for good momentum and movement practice for Deku's not really going to get a whole lot out of that anymore, since he knows the placement of it. And Inasa has to agree. So they start, cleaning off Dagobah Beach, and they realize, this is a better strength, full body workout than going to the gym. And they decide, we could save some money by cutting off our gym subscription. I mean, you got weights at your house, I got some at mine, and this here is like full body muscle. And Inasa agrees, so they cancel their gym memberships for now. and they just start, powerlifting all of the shit from Dagobah Beach, taking it out of there. And, that's along with their morning jog, which now got a lot longer. They still do sparring practice every day, but, after they clean off the beach for about a few hours. So, yeah, they do that for 10 months. The beach is completely cleaned. They're both extremely cut up, and now they're ready. Inasa goes over to UA's because that's a day right before Shiketsu, so Deku's taking a rest day. So he decides to go to, a restaurant, and Inasa, he goes over there to UA, and Deku's chilling at the restaurant. He's getting like a drink of coffee, and he knows that they allow smoking, so he's popping in his cigars, smoking the hell out of it. And, a young girl comes in there, she's pulls out her books, she sits kind of next to Deku, but a couple stools down to not get the smoke, and Deku's like, oh, am I bothering you by smoking? And she's like, yeah, just a little bit. So Deku's like, all right, I'll stop. So he, snuffs out the cigars and just starts sipping on his coffee. He notices that she looks about his age, and, it's like, hey, are you studying for an entrance exam? And she's like, oh, how did you know? And I was like, oh, I've been doing the same thing. And she's like, oh, wait, were you the same age? And I was like, yeah, we're exactly the same age. And, because this is my what if, and the only Shiketsu students we knew of were like 3 second years and like Inasa. So I'm making those 3 second years first years in this because I can. And for what's planned further down the line, they need to be first years. So yeah, that's happened now. So Deku's just like, all right, so what's your name? And she says, oh, my name's Cammy. And Deku's like, oh, my name's Izugumi Doria. It's a pleasure to meet you. And, she's like, oh, awesome. And, she's just like, yeah, I've actually have some friends who are wanting to go to Shiketsu with me tomorrow for the entrance exam. And Deku's like, oh, I'm actually wanting to go to the entrance exam myself. And she's like, oh, maybe we could all meet up and go down there together. And, Deku's just like, sure, that's fine with me. And, they do make that plan, and pretty much where Inasa's at right now, he's taking care of business, and, he tries to talk to Todoroki, be friendly to him, and Todoroki gives him that same look that Bakugo and Endeavor that Todoroki gave him in canon, and Inasa's just, like, left there, and he's just like, first Bakugo, now this guy. Man, UA students are a bunch of jerks. Maybe Deku's right. Maybe UA is not all it's meant up to be or built up to be. So, Inasa, despite being clearly, they offer him the, admission, but he declines it. He says, no, I don't want to go to your school. And All Might hears about that, and he runs to where Inasa's at, and he's like, why did you turn down the admission? And, he tells them, All Might says, look, there's still a little bit of time left to reconsider. I could talk them over to re-giving it to you again. And Inasa's like, no, I made up my mind. I'm going to Shiketsu with Deku. And All Might asks him, but why? And he tells him, UA's students this year are like a bunch of jerks. That's not people I want to be around, because if I'm around them, I'll eventually become just like them. That's not the person I want to be, not the hero I want to be. Deku's ideals, the way he is, it seems right to me. Just being a hero to be a hero. Not because you're egotistical, not because you're, wanting to be the best, but to save people and to punish crime and to be a decent human being, to be humble. That's what I want to be now. After seeing how all these other students here are acting, no, that's not what I want. And All Might actually takes that to heart. He hugs Inas and he tells him, then I wish you the best of luck. I still want you to, check in with me from time to time. And All Might says, I'm going to try to push for joint courses with Shiketsu High and UA to try to be able to keep an eye on you and Izuku. Young Midori, please, don't fail this test because I hear Shiketsu High's test is going to be extremely difficult. Inasa tells him, well, this entrance exam wasn't too difficult at all, so I'm pretty sure I'll have Shiketsu's down. And, he meets up with Deku after that. He calls Deku. Deku's like, oh, yeah, I'm here. Besides, I got someone I want you to meet. And, Inasa is like, all right, I'll be there. And Deku asks him, what's wrong? And Inasa tells him, don't worry about it. Don't worry. I'll meet you there and we'll talk about it then. And Deku's like, all right. And he hangs up and Cammy's asking, was that your friend? And, he's like, yeah, apparently UAL, he turned down his admission there because some reason, I don't know. He'll explain it when he gets here. But he's a good guy. He's very friendly. And Cammy's like, oh, that's good. Cammy, she scoots closer to Deku, and Deku has been flirting with her. They're pretty much just there chilling now, not even studying anymore. And, she looks at Deku's like, wow, you're actually pretty strong, pretty well built. And Deku's like, yeah, I've been working out ever since I was like 5. And, she's like, wow, all that time? And Deku's like, yeah, pretty much. So, they get there. Inasa does, and, he sees Cammy and he says, oh, hi, I'm Inasa, nice to meet you. And she says, oh, my name is Cammy. And, she says, I hear that you're wanting to go to Shiketsu now? And Inasa says, yeah, I might as well stick with my friend Izuku over here. He actually, tried to tell me to go for Shiketsu, but I wanted to go to UA. I bought into the hype, and, well, it kind of just wasn't all that. The students there are the worst. Just like Bakugo, Deku, and Deku's like, I tried to tell you, UA attracts the worst type of people. And, Inasu's like, yeah, they do. Especially that dude with the two-toned hair. Deku's like, two-toned hair? You mean he dyed some of his hair? He's like, no, it's like half white, half red. And, he's just like, you get his name? And, he also says, yeah, his name was like Shoto Todoroki or something like that. And Deku's like, dude, that's the son of Endeavor. No wonder he's an asshole. And, Inasa's just like, yeah, I could tell he was an exact asshole. He's just like, damn. Just like Bakugo, he's like, well, he's a bit quieter than Bakugo. And Deku's probably just like, that's probably his one saving quality then. And, they start joking around and laughing. And Cammy actually, she likes Deku. And, she's friendly with Inasa. So, it's time for the, whole Shiketsu entrance exam now. It's the next day. And Tsukachi actually takes the day off to, observe Deku's entrance exam because they do have, people to observe, and All Might actually comes down there to observe it as well. And of course, All Might being there draws a lot of attention. And Yori, he comes in and he's like, All Might, I didn't expect to see you here. And All Might says, oh yeah, there's some potential students here that I've taken an interest in that are applying for the school. And Yori, she says, oh, you've taken an interest in them? Are they that strong? And, he's just like, yes, they are very strong. And, he's just like, okay, sure. Tell me who they are. I want to test them for myself. And Tsukachi's like, oh, one of them is my son. And, of course, he recognizes Naomasa Tsukuchi because, he's the Japan's star detective pretty much in this because he's worked extra hard ever since taking on his son to give his son a good role model, and it worked. So he's become very well known as a great detective for the police agency, and he's like, your son? Well, that's definitely. So is he a Tsukachi as well? He's like, oh no, he's adopted. He's one of the kids that, actually had a bad upbringing, but he's not let it get him down. If anything, it built up his whole sense of justice. And Yorishi's like, oh, tell me about it. He says his sense of justice is that you do what's right because it's right, not for seeking any type of reward or not because you want to, be recognized or famous. It's just the right thing to do. You're not going to seek gratitude or approval. And Yori is like, that is a very good student. I would love to teach him. And he's like, well, I must be off. And he's like, oh, before that, tell me their names. And he says, Izuku Midoriya. And All Might says, Inasa Yarashi. Probably butchered that, my bad. And, he's like, I'll remember their names. So he heads on down there, and since Yori Musha doesn't have a quirk that we know about, we don't know what his quirk is, the Discord and I came up with this quirk to give him called All Father. That's what I'm going to call it. It basically allows him to see his opponent's movements in a kind of like a Sharingan way, only he copies their physical strength and it gives him increased, maneuverability and reflexes. That's pretty much it. It just copies their physical strength, adds it to his own, and allows him to, predict their movements, see what they're going to do before they do it. Very Sharingan-esque. No copy jutsu, none of that. But anyway. So that's his quirk in this, since we don't know his actual quirk. So he, gets there and, all the written exams are done. They're all lining up, and it's, Yuri is up against Deku first because, Deku got there first, and they have several pro heroes to kind of swap out after so many students. So Yuri and Deku are up first for a fight, and Deku's seeing him, and he's like, you're actually the second person in my life that I look up to the most. And he's like, oh? Who's the first? And he says, that'd be my dad. And he's like, may I ask your father's name? He says, Naomasa Tsukachi. And he's like, so you must be Izuku Midoriya. I've heard about you from your father. He says you're pretty strong. Show me your strength and resolve to be a hero. And Deku says, with pleasure. They start the match. Deku just starts with the smoke flying towards him and lands a punch straight on his face because Yuri's not going to use his quirk too much in these entrance exams. But, Deku's maneuverability is astonishing to him because he's trying to punch Deku. It goes straight through him, and Deku counters him with a punch straight to the temple. So he's like, I'm going to need to actually use my quirk, it seems. So he uses his quirk, and he starts seeing Deku's movements. He's dodging them, and Deku's trying to hit him, but he can't. He's trying to hit Deku. Deku's avoiding them rather than just letting them go straight through him like he can, because he's not wanting to be seen like he uses that as a crutch. He's really wanting to show off everything he can do. And, he's punching that, but before he can connect with another hit, because he already punched, and Deku decided, well, if I let him go through me and blind him, he can't see my movement. So he did blind him, but before he could hit him, the time limit went up. And so Deku actually just stops his attack, reforms his body, and Yari is very, very pleased with how Deku is. So he says, this student passes automatically. And, the Shiketsu people are just like, what? I mean, we agree he should pass, but we don't know his test scores. He's like, trust me, this kid's test scores are going to be perfect. He passes. Give him the acceptance letter. And, they say, all right, hold on. We're not making any special exceptions, but we will grade his test a bit faster. And they're just like, Yori, why are you this, passionate? What's up with you? And he's just like, trust me. He's something that we absolutely need at our school. So, they're like, all right, if you insist. So that happens, and Deku, his test score comes back. It's perfect, 100. They give him the acceptance letter, and Deku thanks them. They hand him a uniform, and, Deku's he's not too fond of the whole coat thing, so, not being closed up anyway. So he puts on his uniform at the house, the hat, the white short sleeve button up shirt, the black pants, and he keeps on his, Deku actually likes wearing boots in this, so he wears his boots with it. And, he puts on the jacket, but he doesn't close it all the way up. He kind of just, keeps it opened up because he doesn't like being too restricted to things. So that's how he actually dresses. Because even though Smoker doesn't wear a shirt underneath his jacket, I'm just going to have it to where Deku leaves the top 4 buttons of his, shirt unbuttoned and his jacket's always open. So that's kind of how he's doing things. And, Inasa, he actually ends up passing because, of course, he trained very hard and he passed. Kami passed, of course. Mora, he passes. Seiji passes. And, pretty much all of the, 4, Shiketsu students that we knew of, they all pass as well. And that's actually where I'm going to leave it off for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, I would appreciate it if you guys left me a like, comment down below, subscribe if you're new, and click that notification bell so you never miss an upload. And I will catch you guys later.